Hello everybody, and welcome to this first episode of this new series. With these little short videos, we are going to focus each time on a very specific aspect related to the development of a web application using DaDaBIK. In particular, today we are going to focus on language translations. As you probably know, DaDaBIK, the front end of a DaDaBIK application, for the front end of a DaDaBIK application, we provide the translation for more than 20 languages, and you can find each translation in the languages folder. Okay. So for each language, you have a specific file, for example, English.php, Italian.php, German.php, and so on and so forth. For each language, you have a PHP file containing all the translations that DaDaBIK uses in the front end. All right. So, for example, if we take I don't know, let's take one of this button, like generate pivot, okay? So English, here we have all the translations for English. Let's just search for generate pivot. Okay, this is the translation. This is the key used in the DaDaBIK code, and this is the actual text. So if I add something here, like generate pivot for this table, then if I reload this page, I get a different label here. Okay. However, changing this language file, English.php, is not a good solution because typically when you upgrade DaDaBIK, this file is a file that is going to be replaced. So you after an upgrade, you have to add again your modifications to the file, which is not very convenient. The most correct thing to do in these cases is to overwrite the current translation, the default translation, in your language custom file. So for each translation file, you can add a custom language file. For example, here I have an English custom file which is empty. Here we have just the instructions, and we can well, let's take the translation back to the default one, and then we can copy this key with the new translation in the custom language file. But to do that, we have to know which is the array we are using. It's the normal messages array. So because we have a few different arrays here. So here, normal messages are generate pivot equal to generate pivot for this table. Okay, this is exactly, the result is exactly the same we had before. So if we try to reload the page, we will still get the new translation. All right, some additional information. if you want to translate DaDaBIK in a language that at the moment is not available, so if you want to create a completely new language translation, for example, at the moment, we are in March 2020, Japanese is not available as a translation. So what if I want to add Japanese? It's very simple. I mean, of course, you need time to enter all the translations, but technically, it's very easy. So you have to create a new file. So, for example, here I can, and in the languages folder, I call it Japanese.php. Okay, so I have an empty file. I just copy and paste here all the content I have in English. All right, and that's my Japanese file. Then let's try to change that just a translation, a sentence, a label, like again the generate pivot. So apparently this is the Japanese translation for generate pivot for this table. I just used the Google translator, so forgive me if it's not correct. But this is not enough, because we have a language here, but DaDaBIK doesn't know about this language. You have to add in your config file, or better in your config custom file, the language. Okay, the language here in the languages are array. Here you set all the languages you want to see here in this menu. All right, so we just need to add Japanese here, and if everything is correct, it should appear here. Let's reload. Okay, we have Japanese. All right, awesome. Okay, if you create a new translation and you want to share the translation with us, you are very welcome to send the translation, so it can become an official. It can become part of the official DaDaBIK package. All right. Of course, we use the Japanese.php file, but it would be better to use a Japanese custom file if we want to change a particular translation, a particular sentence, respect to the official one. But in this case, since Japanese is totally new, unless Japanese will be introduced in the next releases, it doesn't make much difference. All right. What else? There is something more you can do, because here, let's go back to English or English custom. You have many translations that are used. I mean, the same translation for many pages. For example, customers. Let's go back to English. Customers. Create new. And we have insert a new item button here. Okay. Well, exactly the same button is available here. Insert a new item, all right? And we have only one language item here. So if we look for insert a new item, well, here we actually have two entries, but the one that impacts on that button is this one, because it is part of the it is an element of the submit buttons are array, and this is a submit button. Okay, but imagine that you want a different translation only if a specific condition is true, only for particular situations. So, for example, only if a particular user is logged in, or a particular group, or, and this is very common, only for a particular table or page of your web application. Well, you can handle this situation adding just an if statement into your language custom file. So, for example, let's say that for customers, and only for customers, we want to change this button, and we want this button to be insert a new customer instead of using a generic item word. Okay? So what we can do here is English custom, well, English submit buttons are insert a new customer. Okay, if I just do something like this, let's check. Okay, I got insert a new customer, but of course I would get insert a new customer for all the tables and views, which is not what I want. So I can just add this code. Let me write the code and then I'll discuss it. Okay, let me try if everything is working. Okay, for customer, we have insert a new customer. For leads, we have insert a new item. So basically, if we are talking about a specific table, when you are working with a table in DaDaBIK, you always have in your URL, in your query string, this parameter, table name. So what I'm saying is, if it's set table name, it could be not set if you're using a custom page, so a page that is not built over a table. But if it is set and it is equal to customers, then you can override the default translation and use this one. All right. The very last thing I want to show you in this video related to translations is how to translate. Well, until now we have translated button labels, and more in general, the words and the sentences you can find in a DaDaBIK application. But what about the field names that you use in tables and views? Can you have a different version for each language? Yes, you can. So, for example, let's say that here, for this form, we want to have different field labels for different languages. Okay, so this is name, but we want to specify at least a couple of translations. So in the edit form, in the form configurator, customer, name, here you have instructions about how to use multi-language, the multi-language support for labels, but you can also use it for hints and tooltips. But basically, let's say that we want to add two translations, one for English and one for Italian. We can say an column name, N stands for English, tilde. Okay, I had already here the whole string. It, Italian, column, nome. All right, let's save. And let's see the actual application. So I have name here, but if I move to Italian, customers, I have nome. All right. Remember that to enable this feature, the multi-language label feature, you have to add this parameter. You have to set this parameter, enable multi-language labels to 1 in your configuration file. Alright, that's it for this first video. Bye!